Dzień dobry, good morning. That was our lively panel, and I'll call it some interesting questions that we danced around a little bit, but hopefully you enjoyed it. I just wanted to hit one of the topics that was brought up there and was also introduced in our earlier speakers. Part of security, there are several elements of security. I'll talk about two key ones. One is capability or military capability, and that's why I'm bringing up the Patriot system and how we're talking about that. But also the security of supply, which was brought up by our PGZ partner and colleague, on how that indigenous industry can be the sole maintainer and provide the supply chain and parts needed to keep the systems going longer term. So there's two aspects that are very critical, which Patriot, as part of the WSF program, brings to Poland. So Patriot, you've heard lots about. It's a very capable system that's been around for several years. It's used in NATO by 5 different countries currently. It's the backbone of air and missile defense in NATO and Europe today. So when you look at that, it's got a long history, and it's constantly being modernized to the current and future threats through that partners of 13 different countries that are partners in Patriot around the world. Key elements that you have to understand is it is combat proven constantly. There is ongoing engagements in hostility to today in parts of the world that is constantly challenging the defensive architectures. Patriot is being used today almost constantly in these environments. Those, what I'll call operational lessons learned, the technology lessons learned are constantly being factored back into modernizing the system as it is tested in real operations and also in other stressful engagements and scenarios in the test environment, constantly being evolved. The other aspect I want to bring up is the elements of the system in a future slide, but the missile mix. The missile mix is critical because the complex threat environment we face, you really have to look at what are the types of missiles and the optimization of capability against threat and cost avoidance and cost of matching of the threat you look at. So the missile mix is important based on the particular country's threat environment. Patriot today has the major elements of sensor radars, what I'll call decision loop command and control communications, and the effector, the missiles, or in other cases, cyber attack or something like that. That's true to Patriot today. In the future, all of those elements are evolving and modernizing. They've constantly evolved over the past, and they're constantly going to evolve in the future. The radar itself is modernizing in 2 key ways. It's going from a space-fed array to an active array in 2 configurations, and I'll talk about what the key element of that technology-wise. The command and control is evolving to common command control, and I'm sure you've heard the IBCS term. That's in the future roadmap as well as adding additional effectors to cost balance the equation from a cost affordability and capability point of view as the threats evolve. So you can see those 3 elements as we go forward. To the radar side, the key element is, again, substrate technology. The key part of GaN, or gallium nitrate, is the thermal conductivity property of it. Very simple. That's the basis way of looking at the improvement. It allows you to pack a denser circuit on that substrate because the heat dissipation is better than previous materials, namely the gas. That improvement alone allows you to have more capacity, more capability in a smaller footprint, or take the same footprint and make it more cost-effective, cheaper to produce. This key technology is being used by Raytheon in many different products, including the future Aegis radar system, AMDR, and some of the other products for other services in the US. This was part of the program for Poland going forward. A key aspect of this is transferring key technologies within the Patriot system, current and future, to Polish industry for long-term maintenance sustainability as well. You see that in some of the future activity. So the radar itself is being modernized. The space-fed array is actually the current system deployed by most countries today. There's several different configurations out there that are managed in a network environment to work together. As that evolves, you'll basically take off that space-fed array. One option is the new front panel, which is all active arrays. Effectively, you're taking a single transmitter-receiver chain and make it thousands of transmitter-receiver chains on the array face itself. Gives you much more operational flexibility. It reduces the operation and maintenance cost by at least 50% because you're taking away a lot of the internals of the radar and putting them in individual elements that are cheap to make. I say relatively cheap to make. It's still not cheap. And the other option is additional panels on the rear to give you a full 360 without rotating. The key to that is operational performance. the more you have to rotate in stressing environments, the more you lose some of the capabilities on large and complex threats. And that's all I can really say about that, but it's a key element of a staring array that gives you 360. Key element of the missile being proposed as part of the Poland program is the Skyceptor. A little bit of history. Skyceptor is currently, in its current variation, is part of the David Sling weapon system in Israel. It's called the Stunner missile. It's actually deployed today in Israel and in production. It is a co-developed missile by Israeli industry and U.S. industry, and very effective because what we have is full approval by the U.S. government and Israeli government to share technology with PGZ in Poland, as well as do a large percentage of production and development of any upgrades in Poland. That gives the capability for a hit-to-kill interceptor in this threat environment that is also very cost-effective. It reduces the costs of the missile, most complex missile, by about down to 20% of the cost, so it's a fraction of the cost of current missiles. That's very important when, in some of the previous discussion, we talked about mass raids or cost of attack versus defense. Having more cheaper interceptors or effectors, if you will, balances that equation a lot better because you can get more of them. So a key benefit to the Skyceptor is not only the capability it provides and the cost, but also I mentioned the industry participation. Greater than 50% of this can be co-developed and produced in here. The changes to the missile from the current deployed version that's in David Sling weapon system would be to make it NATO safety certified. Not very complex development as far as changes to the missile, so it's about very high percentage complete for that configuration. But for NATO and US standards, we need to make it safety certified in certain areas. The other change would be to integrate it fully into Patriot in the network-centric architecture. That gives us the full capability to do that. That is being planned as part of the program as well. And that concludes it. So you've got an aspect of a system that's, as mentioned, the forefront in the Vistla program. Key aspects of technology evolution and key aspects of industrial partnership that are two aspects of security that I think are very important. Thank you very much.